the 2026 Toyota Sequoia 1794. With the recent introduction of this trim and the fact that this is now a mature product that we've already done a fairly deep dive on, where we spoke to some of the engineers, where essentially held them hostage, and the US design team and engineering team walked us through their mentality behind this product, we thought it would be a good time to revisit this vehicle. The Toyota truck / Lexus truck lineup is now completely mature. You have the LX, GX, Land Cruiser, 4Runner, Tacoma, and Tundra, all based on this platform. I want to walk you through how this compares to its siblings and, of course, its nearest rivals. So let's start with pricing first. The base model Toyota Sequoia for 2026 starts in the mid-60s. It's like $64,000, $65,000 for the base model. Some of the higher trim grades, like the TRD Pro, the 1794, and the Capstones, push past $80,000. And the middle grades are in the 70s. This is not inexpensive, but it's right in line with all of its domestic rivals. This being on TNGA F means it's live rear axle on the back, and the Sequoia versus essentially its mechanical twin, the Toyota Tundra, uses the 3.4-liter twin-turbo iForce Max V6. iForce Max means it's hybrid. It has a small electric motor that lives in the gearbox. The electric motor produces 40 or 50 horsepower and a lot more torque. Total system output in this is just under 440 horsepower. It's like 437, 438, and just under 600 foot-pounds of torque. This vehicle tows 9,000 pounds, and because of its size, it is basically the largest Toyota truck, or at least SUV. It has just under 90 cubic feet of cargo capacity. What you need to know is that number is very misleading compared to something like the Lexus GX. It does not have a flat load floor. It has this tiered system in the back. It has not packaged its space well at all. It's a complaint we've had the entire time with this thing. Honestly, the rear cargo area probably needs a redesign. It does not carry things anywhere as well as many of its Toyota siblings, like the Lexus GX, or any of its domestic rivals. The third row itself, not very large. You don't want to fit a full-size adult back there. The second row, far more spacious than something like a Lexus GX or LX, at least I find it to be. And the front occupant area of this vehicle is basically Tundra-esque. They have utilized space very well, better than all of its Lexus counterparts. This was led by an American engineering and design team, and I think the American market has a better understanding of what large SUV customers are looking for, which is storage in the doors, a center console, a giant armrest, a tier storage area. That is what the Sequoia has done well. And there's a good use of physical controls, unlike some of its domestic rivals that are moving to touch everything. That's the pro of this space. The 1794 has a JBL audio system, which is very average, massaging seats, which are actually not too bad, and the older version of Toyota Safety Suite, the 2.5, if you compare it to the Lexus 3.0, you lack the more advanced lane keep assist, the traffic jam assist. It's not that great of a safety suite, though it will protect you or stop you from rear-ending someone. And there are some decent features there, but it's not as advanced as the most recent stuff. Noise floor in this vehicle is very low as well. So with that, let's go take this for a quick drive and walk you through the dynamics of the Toyota Sequoia. Setting off in the Toyota Sequoia. My wheels! All right. This generation of Toyota truck has not been without its teething pains. First, I want to tell you that the American-led trucks, the Tundra, the Tacoma, and the Sequoia, for their current iteration, have all had some trouble. Before I get into the negatives of really all of these products, in particular the Sequoia, I want to walk you through what's great. And honestly, it's the drivetrain. The iForce Max twin-turbo V6 is a great engine. Yes, there were some initial quality issues that led to a lot of headaches for both Toyota and its owners, the Tundra owners specifically, if you can look past that, when you're actually using it in the real world, particularly the iForce Max element with the hybrid battery pack and electric motor, you have an unbelievable amount of torque. There's power everywhere, and it is very smooth. Does it sound as good as a V8? No. Is it probably going to be as reliable as the outgoing 5.7 liter? Probably not. But you know, in its current crop of competitors, I genuinely like this more than, say, like an EcoBoost V6, the inline six, and say a Ram, or even the 5.3 out of the GM vehicles. And it probably, this iForce Max honestly won't give you the long-term headaches of the potential problems, say the 6.2 from GM as well, as painful as that is for me to admit. I think the interior space, as we've already mentioned, is a mixed bag, but at least for the front occupants, they've done a pretty good job. Past that, though, I feel like Toyota, at least their American trucks, not the GX, not maybe the LX so much, at least their American vehicles are, in some ways, the worst of two worlds. From a driving perspective, ride quality, inputs, just general usability, I feel like they feel like old products in a bad way. If you get into a new Suburban, Tahoe, Expedition, even the Grand Wagoneer, and a lot of its body-on-frame competitors, they all do ride quality and honestly packaging, which is half the reason you're buying these things, better than this vehicle. So we talked about the rear cargo space of the Sequoia is totally botched. And honestly, the way you interact with a lot of this vehicle and some of the storage to it, the way it's tiered in the back, not great either. In the front, you know, it's in line with what you're expecting, but that's a big downgrade. The way it actually handles, obviously we're driving in a back road, country road area, but this is in comfort mode. This trim level has the adaptive dampers in the Sequoia, and it never, ever hides the live rear axle in this thing. Right now we're on fairly smooth pavement, but with all these little cracks and bumps, I feel it all the time. That's not something you notice in its competitors. And it never feels small. I'm not saying a Suburban feels maneuverable, but in comparison, for similar money, it does handle better than this thing, which is sort of the con of this. It feels old. And in the past, when you drove a Sequoia or an old Tundra with a V8, you know, your excuse was that you had a ultra reliable drivetrain that never needed anything out of you and you could keep for a billion years. Even if this engine proves to be deeply reliable, you know, the consumers that are going to buy this and the 4-cylinder Tacoma and even the 4Runner, you know, I feel like Toyota as a brand has sort of lost the trust of a lot of its buyers in that regards. The people who want the old V6 and the old V8 aren't going to buy as good as this is to at least drive this V6 or the new 4-cylinder. And then you have all the cons of driving like an old vehicle, which doesn't leave you with a whole lot of pros. I think that becomes my problem with the Sequoia, the Tundra, and the 4Runner, is that in the world it exists in, it's now the marriage of two negatives, where in the past you could excuse maybe some of the questionable dynamics of an old 4Runner or Tacoma or and Tundra. You can't anymore. I think that's something Toyota's going to have to work on. Like I genuinely think the GX that we have as a long-termer is a great luxury body-on-frame SUV. And I think it's done the Lexus part of that well. I don't know why the Sequoia suffers so poorly in the departments that makes the Lexus a pretty reasonable SUV to live with. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this video, and I'll see you next time.